All right. Welcome to the Chosen series. My name is James from the Nerdy Bible, and I'm here with Mike from Showboys Podcast. How you doing, man?
Doing well. A little
Yeah.
sleepy tonight, but otherwise good. Got a fresh haircut over the weekend.
Yes.
New
Yes.
new year, new hairdo, I think is the way the saying goes.
Yeah, I'm due for a hairdo cut. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Um,
I also didn't know what to do with myself because you didn't do the traditional
5, 4.
countdown into
Yeah.
the
We
silent
actually started from
inky.
30 and
Yeah.
went down, and it was a mess. It just
Yeah.
didn't work out. So
Got to
won't
like
be doing
3
that
and it
again.
messed up.
You gotta try new things sometimes. It's a new year, new things,
Yeah.
new countdown. So yeah, man. Awesome. So tonight we're going over season 3, episode 4, man. It's we're cruising. We're
Yeah.
cruising. Which is ridiculous because I feel like we're going to catch up here. Well, you're already caught up. You just started mass producing episodes and putting them out like it was, I shown the patient route here, primarily because I don't have another course of episodes coming out every week. So, but yeah, no. So we got what? So is this 4, 5, 6, 7, 4
Well,
more after this?
this is the
Yeah,
mid-season finale if we want to
yeah,
get
pretty much.
technical.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to put it.
Or I shouldn't say finale. That's the term they used back in the day, like when we actually watched shows on channels like AMC and whatnot. They
Yeah.
would
Well, I
they would
mean,
have like a mid-season finale, or at least I'm thinking
uh
specifically of The Walking Dead, for example. I don't know why this is the first one that popped into my head. But they would have a mid-season finale, take like a month off, and then release the second half of the season. I don't know. There's something weird that used to happen, but
Interesting. Yeah, no, they did. I do remember that. I do remember that. Um, well, they're actually going through week by week now, I did not predict it. I thought that they were going to be more of, in the past, it's been like, here's a random slew of episodes. Here's not no more episodes. Here's some more. Here's, and so, but I don't know. So far, it is, what is today's date? The 3rd of January, which is what is today? A Tuesday.
yes,
A
yes.
Tuesday. And so this coming Saturday, they're going to release episode 5. And then the Sunday after, they're going to release episode 6. So, those are the only 2 that are announced thus far, but I imagine that if they're going to continue this route, the next 2 will be named shortly, which is crazy. So therefore, we're cruising to the end of the season, and we're, like you said, we're reaching our midpoint. So why don't you give us a little synopsis of the episode 4?
Yes, it's a brief one.
Hmm.
If you can imagine that. Just because
We'll make it long.
I'm pulling these episode descriptions from the streaming platform now, as opposed to seasons 1 and 2. I took it off the wiki page, which was much more thorough. But yes, the apostles return from their missions, but wrestle with how they performed their miracles. And yeah, this episode brought up some really good thinking points for me that I'm excited to talk about tonight.
Yeah, I actually made a note, just one. I thought I was going to make more, but I was just like get into the show and I forget. But I do have one note that I want to bring up, and I'll bring that up when the time. Well, actually, it's pretty early on. I'll bring it up. But cool. So, awesome, man. I mean, let's jump in. Why wait?
Just get right.
Grab a
Better
Snickers.
time than now, they say. It's going to keep
right.
throwing sayings out, and whether or not they're actual sayings or not will be for you guys to decide. It'll be a little test for you. I don't even know what I'm talking about half the time. So.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about right now. Awesome. so I was curious about this introduction because I kept on seeing things on social media, one of them being Dallas, and said he was like quoting people, and like one person was like, this was the worst introduction I've ever seen, and then the next person literally on the same, this is the best introduction I've ever seen. So like, just, people with their opinions, man.
Yep. Everyone's got one.
It's just way too much. Like just watch the show
Yeah.
and just like, and then just do a podcast after about the whole
And then you
episode.
do all your opinions on an hour and a half long
Yeah. No,
podcast.
we're I would say our average is not about an hour and a half. It's probably like an hour and 45 minutes to go over a 40-minute episode. But no, I actually liked it. It's the old starts out the grayscale. What do you call this? Black and white. Yeah.
Yep, black and white.
Grayscale, I guess. Be but yeah, so if you recall, episode 2 was called 2 by 2 Jesus sends out the disciples, which is very, it's straight from scripture. So sends them out to do works in different areas, right? To preach the gospel, to do, what's what he's calling them to do. So they go out, right? And so episode 3 was one of those typical episodes 3 where you don't really get a picture of what was happening here. It's some specific isolated thing, and that's what we got. So now we jump to the introduction of episode 4, and we have the disciples out 2 by 2 cruising around, and so it's black and white, and I like it. It's the no words, you can't hear anything, so you see lips moving, you can't really, it's just
the music here is really, really great.
I'm trying to picture it, or not picture it.
This the intro over 8 minutes long, so it's a big one, but I love what they do here. The black and white is amazing. The little to very soft mumblings of voices to where like you can't really understand what they're saying, but you can, in some scenes, like particularly when Andrew's preaching in the town or whatever, you can kind of hear talking, but you can't really make out exactly what he's saying. But they do some really cool, there are some gorgeous camera shots in this intro. And the use of the black and white, I really feel like just enhances most cinematography feature. I can't think of the right word, but like tricks, strategies, approaches. I like just right off the bat, the first miracle that happens with Thomas and John. Like, one, they're surprised that like it actually worked, which is a talking point that we're going to get into. But like how the camera kind of like, zooms in on each of them as they're kind of like bewildered and shocked. They zoom in on people all the time, but for some reason with the black and white, it just like enhances that technique, right? It just makes it look cooler. I don't know, more powerful, more cinematic, dare I say. And then the next miracle, you have a shot, the camera's above behind Andrew's head, like angled down into the crowd in front of him. It's just, even the opening shot that you see at the start of the episode, just the girl with the cloudy eyes staring directly into the camera. Beautiful shot. Like, it's just,
it is
gorgeous.
Well, that was the first thing, right?
Yeah. But yeah, like you said here in this 8-minute intro, sorry, my eyeball is really itchy right now. We have just shifting scenes between each pair of disciples in their assigned mission field, preaching, healing, casting out demons, exactly what Jesus told them they were going to have the authority and power to do. And it's so cool to see. So cool. You have some of them have confidence in what they're doing. Some of them, like Thomas and John in the beginning, are just kind of shocked that they're doing the things they're doing. You have people like Big James and Little James, they're kind of nervous looking when they're starting, when their scenes are coming in. It was just really, really cool to see. I think this is a great way to kind of like, instead of spending the entire episode following each pair, like you just get glimpses of what they did, and then it allows the episode to be what it was, which was like a big think piece, right? A lot of deep, like theological thoughts are kind of introduced here for people to just kind of chew on after the fact.
Yeah. You should definitely talk over music more often. It like was great. I had the introduction playing there that whole time with that music, and like I was like,
to
man,
make it just
this is
sound
good.
so much more
Yeah, no,
epic.
it does. So no, I was also looking at, this is one of those scenes too, or even one of those things in scripture that you see that it's like, what was it? So Mark 6:7 is what you had in episode 2. Jesus says, take nothing for the journey except a staff, blah, goes through everything. And then it says they went out and preached that people should repent. They drove out many demons and anointed many sick people with oil and healed them. Boom. Done.
Exactly what happened in this 8 minutes.
And but this 8 minutes is like 8 minutes longer than what we get from scripture, and
Right.
like, and so I'm unless I'm missing something here, and I don't think I am. I don't remember much of, like, there's a lot of things that happens in Acts, and you kind of follow people and different things like that, but not here. Like, I think that's about it. And so yeah, I don't know. I love, this is what's great about this show. It's giving like this glimpse of it. And so, I mean, if you're very imaginative, you probably could have thought of things like this in that scene. But like,
Right.
this is, I mean, this is exactly what it is. There's healing sick people and driving out demons and stuff. And we've talked about that in an earlier episode
and
of our thoughts on
it,
that.
it kind of like this brought up a chat between me and my wife. Like,
it's always good.
Yeah. At first she was like we could just use Thomas and Andrew, or Thomas and John at the beginning when they heal the blind girl.
Yeah.
Like how they are just like shocked and amazed that they actually did that. And she was like, man, I don't know, like shouldn't they be like confident and like expecting that to happen? And it made me think, so I kind of agree, but at the same time, we have the benefit of like learning about all of this stuff, all of the all of the things that Jesus did throughout his entire ministry. We've had the opportunity and time to like try to understand that Jesus has given us the same authority to do the things that he's done through the Holy Spirit, whereas like they didn't have the New Testament to read like we have, so like they were walking with Jesus, but like they were just normal dudes like you and I who followed Jesus and like saw him do these things in front of them like for the first time, right? After going through like, how long was it, that the period of silence before Jesus's birth, right? Like 400 years God didn't talk to the people. There, miracles like this were kind of unheard of unless they're attributed to like the devil himself, right? So like, yeah, they've been with Jesus and seen him do these things, but they're like fishermen. Just it'd be like a plumber, going and being like, wait, hold on, you're telling me I can like cure this person's blindness? And then like,
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, even though like Jesus told them and gave them his authority and power, like I still think those reactions probably, like the first time they're going out preaching by themselves, like asked to do these things, and then like actually seeing them happen. I mean, I think I would be shocked. Is that wrong to think? Like, should they have been confident and expectant of what they did? Or like, I don't know. What did you think about like those reactions? Or is that something that maybe didn't even like pop up?
No, I was thinking that too when they were like, they did this like, oh my goodness, like,
Yeah,
like I
pretty
can't
much.
believe
The shocked Pikachu face.
no, but like, it's like I think they're right now at this point driven by somewhat of a fear, not fear, but like that might not be the right word. I think it's one of the emotions that are underlying there. I don't know if it's what's primarily driving them, but you got to think about it like this: like they're being pushed out of a nest, like a baby bird right now. Like that's what they're doing, right? They follow
Mhm.
the guy. Everything's like, this is the rabbi, the Messiah, the son, the Son of Man, right? They're learning all of this as he's going, and then out of nowhere, it's like, hey, go. And so they're on their own. They're like, this is something new. It's scary, right?
Mhm.
You're going into uncharted territories. You're right before your preface saying like you may die. Like, I mean, that was a conversation. And
Yeah, yeah.
and like I think living in an oppressive time like Rome, and the areas, I mean, not even Rome, like you're most likely to get stoned to death by your own people, right? I mean, that's the reality here. And so like I think fear is something that's driving them. So like I don't think they have any certainty to them. It's really where I'm getting at. Like, there's just none. Even there was an argument later on, and we'll talk about it. But like, it was like I think it was Big James was like, I still don't like no, like we're good in here and we don't even know why. Like, there's no understanding, there's no explanation, there's no here. Like, just go heal people, and it's like I don't even know if I can do that. I wouldn't. So it's like I get it, and I understand what your wife's saying, and I understand what you're saying, and like both are I think valid. Like, yeah, you should be in confidence, right? But I don't think the baby bird that's flown out of the nest is like when they're actually flying. They're not like this like I knew I could and puff out their chest and like I don't know. I guess that's not the best analogy because I don't think they're thinking like that. But you get what I'm saying. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think it's like I think it would be amazed. I don't. How about this? I would say I don't care if you were the most confident person in the world. Or I guess if you were Jesus, right, and you healed somebody, you expected it. But like you're healing somebody, right? Like that's beyond rationalization.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what a miracle is, right? It's a miracle that they're healing people, and in some regards, so like there is no rational explanation for it,
Yeah.
and so like it would be that I think that they would be like that. They did it in somewhat of a confidence, but like
Mhm.
when it happened,
I mean,
like
it'd still be pretty amazing.
there's no, yeah,
Even if it's just like a, "Holy crap, you're healed now." Like,
mhm.
I mean, I don't know. It's just I think, yeah, it's just it's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, I would say that most of them weren't confident. If they were, it was a facade, like it was this like,
Yeah.
this like I don't know, man. I mean, even now you look at it and you see, I mean, that brings up points of like, I think it was churches like there was a big when there big some controversy with like Bethel Church or something, and they were
Oh, I'm
like,
sure there was.
and like something about like you need to like basically on how I have no idea what it was. So I'm 100% speculating right now. So we're probably going to get sued here a while. So get your
Yeah.
lawyer out now. No, I think it's a matter. I mean, we see. How about this? We'll just say we see it in a modern sense of like, should you pray or should you go to a doctor?
Mm,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And so like, um, so that puts a point of like, okay, so like if you pray, are you praying confidently? Are you praying that you're going to be healed? Does it actually do something? Does it actually change anything? Are you what did you in that sense say I'm going to go to a doctor too? And like, hopefully hopefully you say yes, I'm going to go to a doctor as well. And like you have this I don't know. So it's like I feel like we're not too far from this dilemma. But like I don't know. I don't even know. That might be a tangent here, but it just makes me think of now because
Oh,
we are
tangent
called
coming
to
up
kind of, yeah,
in one of
right.
our episodes. Who would have thought?
What in the first like 15? Yeah, no, I just because when we see these disciples, like we're supposed to be called to do these same types of things. Maybe not like heal, like that's not what we're called. I'm not saying like we're called to go out and heal people, right? What I'm saying is we're called to go out, and if you're a believer in the gospel itself, you're called to love others and share with others and pray for others and do, you know what I mean, do those things that within your community. And so I don't know, like I don't know, man. I just this whole beginning invoked a lot of thought with me, and it was right there along with that. So I'll stop ranting and let's focus a little bit. But I think that I don't think it's pure confidence. I don't know how it would be. I don't.
Yeah.
I
I
really
think
don't.
last point on this until it comes up later. I think, at least personally, sorry, I look really odd, but my hands are freezing. I think, at least myself, sometimes when reading, because again, well, first off, like obviously the show is uh, a large part inference, right? Like we don't have any details on these disciples other than what is in scripture and what
Mhm.
like small things we can find historically, but like their personalities, little things like this is all being inferred, right? And also dramatized because it's a TV show.
Mhm.
But one thing that this show has made me think about and kind of remind me of is it's the fact that the disciples were just regular people. Like, so like regular people have emotions and like ranging from pure joy and trust and confidence all the way
Mhm.
to like fear, worry, and doubt. And like Jesus is, you know, God. He's the Son of God. He's the Son of Man. He's the Messiah. He is our Savior. He is Lord, right? So he is perfect and he is confident, like faithful, trusting, loving, all those adjectives. But the disciples were just regular people. So like sometimes when reading, I think that they are like Jesus, like little 12 little copies of Jesus, right? Just running around, like not being regular humans, trying to walk with Jesus and learn how to be
Mhm.
Jesus's early church, right? And as you and I both know, uh, people are, not infallible, and even in the church, even people who are trying to follow Jesus, um, sometimes we make mistakes, sometimes we doubt, sometimes we lack confidence, and those are all things that the disciples had to have gone through because they were just human people.
Mhm.
I don't know if that makes any sense or if I'm just rambling, but the show makes me think about that a lot.
Yeah. No, it does. I think they do a pretty good job at developing them. And because I mean that's another thing that you kind of brought up too, is that we are, it's like this like lifelong journey. It's no different. It's not like you become you start following Jesus, and then you become this like person
Right.
that
It's not like a
and
light switch that you flip and all like
yeah, but I mean,
when
oh, go on.
I was just
Sorry.
gonna say when I first started following Jesus, I wasn't running around thinking that I could perform miracles, right?
Mhm.
And it's taken a long time in my relationship with Jesus to like be confident in the things that like we're called to be called to do, etc.
Mhm.
They couldn't have been any different. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm just now getting to this place. I mean, of course, I'm not saying everyone is like me. But like I've been a Christian for what, 15 years. They've been with Jesus how long in at this point in the gospels or the show? maybe a year. I don't know, maybe 2. So like to think that it's just like a light switch that they just flip on all of a sudden they're like the like saintly disciples that sometimes we picture immediately without like going through that learning and growing process. I don't
Mhm.
know. Again, just rambling random thoughts. I don't know if they're coherent or anything, but
No, I mean, even in like a secular aspect, like I mean, it's always a growing thing, morality and how you approach life and grow. Like it doesn't even outside of religion, like there's nothing that's a light switch. You still have to wrestle with it, whether you are a Christian or not. I'll just say it instead of listing off a bunch of random things. I'll just say or not. But
Mhm.
like, you know, I, it's yeah, dude. I don't know, man. It's like it's it's interesting. It really is interesting. Um, one of the things I wanted to bring up was I love how everyone was so angry. I thought about a lot about this. All right, so you remember when everyone was angry that he's developing the character Judas. You remember that? They were like, "How dare you? Like
Yeah.
you are going." Oh, I think somebody said you need to repent for this
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever. But like, but like, that's that's what I noticed right away is that Judas was out there doing this,
He
right?
was a
Like,
disciple, right?
chew on that for a moment.
Yeah.
Like and so repent because you're developing his character like into some like he was called the same as the others and is doing the same thing. So how about that, dude? Like
Yeah.
if you're upset, then you need to repent and think about it for a little bit.
Right,
Just
because this scene is not something that he just made up
no.
in Matthew when they talk about, um
And he wasn't excluded.
right, when they were talking about who was at the meeting there, he names all 12 disciples, Judas is
Correct.
listed there,
Mhm.
and then immediately after, he sends them out in pairs. So
So
Judas was part of this, like he is in the
so
show, out
because
there
yeah,
doing exactly what Jesus told them to do.
so because you got some rough feelings and you don't want to wrestle with the fact that Judas was a disciple, you think Dallas should repent
Yeah.
for developing the character.
Yeah,
Not
might as well
you,
just tell
but
Matthew to
the
repent
people.
for writing
Yeah.
in the New Testament that Judas was a disciple and actually like
Yeah.
worked.
I was thinking about that as I saw him in there and I was like, man, that is true. Like we can hate, you can have all the feelings you want about the dude, but like, guess what? Like he was there up until
Mhm.
the end. It was the end that he did what he did. It wasn't halfway or in the beginning.
Right.
It was at the end of it. So guess what? Oh well.
Yep.
Deal with it. He's developed his character's being developed, right?
Yep.
Sorry, I thought about that as I was watching this.
We're on great pace so far. So we're up to like 9 minutes into the episode and we've talked about it
Not
for
even.
about
My gosh.
25 minutes.
Yeah. No, it's
So if we're breaking this down,
yeah.
10 minutes in the episode equals 25 minutes of podcast. The episode is 50 minutes
You
long, so that's 5 times 25. My math is terrible. Let me bust out the
125.
calculator.
125. So it's
125 divided by 60. So we're at like,
mhm.
2 hours.
Correct. But usually we don't jump into a rant within the first 10 minutes. So we will I mean, look, I there's a few made all right. Let's just do this. Whose arc shall we follow? This was a longer episode too.
Honestly, I mean, it is longer, but there is kind of some filler that we can just kind of
Mm,
gloss over.
yeah.
There's a lot of talk, immediately after this, we get John and Big James and Zebedee in the synagogue listening to the the rabbi read about the ritual cleansing and
Mhm.
uncleanliness which is a major theme in this entire episode, which leads to something that my wife was elated about, which I'm excited to talk about.
Correct.
But yeah, so that's going on. The cistern in the town here, again, like we saw a couple episodes ago, is broken. Quintus was drinking brown poopy water. No good, no bueno. Still broken. Imagine that.
So
Rome is pressuring the citizens here, particularly the synagogue and Rabbi Yanni, to pay for the materials and kind of make the repairs themselves, while being big jerks about it. And that, that takes up a nice little chunk. But let's talk about Yanni, actually, since we're here, and Jairus, because this was something that totally took me by surprise. So I'm excited to talk about this. You want to get into that?
Let's. Do I ever?
All right.
Yeah, let's do it.
So the next scene here, we have Rabbi Yanni coming into, or Yanni, it's Yusuf. I don't know why I keep saying that. Apologies. Rabbi Yusuf is who I've been talking about this entire time so far. Yusuf comes in, sits down to talk to Jairus, and he's basically requesting materials from his family's construction, like a stone masonry brick producing company, to send materials so they can fix the cistern. And this conversation that happens here is so interesting, because this is the scene, right, where he talks about the sermon.
Yeah.
Okay, so somehow the sermon comes up, and Jairus is intrigued, and he's like, you know what? I get it, Yusuf. I get it. Like, this is crazy. And what if he really is the Messiah? And Yusuf is kind of a little taken aback, but I think also kind of is like, I'm picking up what you're putting down, Jairus. I just don't think we can actually like say that.
Yeah.
If you catch my drift.
One thing too is that, so this is what Yusuf wrote a while ago, and that was what Jairus said, like, hey, if you want to put this away into the freezer for a little bit, let it sit in silence. And so this is what he gave to him. He wrote the account of the Sermon on the Mount, his account of it.
I guess I probably should have led with that.
Oh, no, you're fine.
If people might be like, who the heck is Jairus?
So, and Jairus was the one that that he'd given it to. He was the new I don't know his role here. Maybe scribe, or he's like the office manager.
Yeah.
Like he's
exactly,
of the synagogue. And so Yusuf gives Jairus this. Jairus reads said scribe, and can't unsee it. And so that's what I loved. He even said in there, he's like, I can't pretend.
Yeah, because
I didn't see this, because I've been looking at notes. I've been comparing it to scripture. I cannot unsee
comparing
this,
it to Shmuel's accounts.
Yep, Shmuel, Nicodemus.
Yeah, so basically, this came up because Jairus is like, hey, by the way, Sanhedrin, they kind of want to know about your account on the sermon. And then they have this conversation, and Jairus is like, I read what you wrote, and I'm comparing it, like you said, to scripture and other accounts and Shmuel's accounts, and like, long story short, summarizing, this guy seems legit. Like, maybe everyone's got it wrong about him being this like warrior, and maybe he is the Messiah. And Yusuf's like, hey, now, do you realize what you're saying? Like, that could get you in a lot of trouble. And basically the end of this conversation, Jairus is like, it's probably not a great idea to send them your account, or if you do, it should be like very nondescript and like the most minimal account you possibly can. And Yusuf's like, yeah, you're probably right. Um, or maybe, you know, we just don't tell him at all and you just pretend like you didn't read that.
Mhm.
And Jarvis, the big thing that I love about the scene that like totally caught me off guard is Jarvis is like, yeah, sure, I can do that, but it's not going to change what I believe now.
Yeah. I
And so I don't know about you, but I was just like, I did not see this coming because I thought Jarvis was going to be one of those sneaky, like little villainy types, like,
you
you
don't
know, fingers
you,
and everything kind of
you
guy.
haven't read Mark in a while, then have you?
I have not. No.
Okay, so that's why it took me a few minutes to process because I'm not usually good at naming, but this guy's in Mark. So
Oh,
I'll
nice.
so he's not like a made up character. And
Oh,
so
perfect. I probably sound like a giant idiot now.
I'll well no, it's fine. I mean, this is why we're here. Like no one's
Yeah,
supposed
yeah.
to, we're not all like, you know, I I did I've read the New Testament more than anything else, and that's why I remembered this story, and I had a feeling it was, but I had to go and look because I didn't remember the name. So don't feel weird. But he's in Mark and Luke actually both tell accounts
Oh,
of
nice.
this, but Jairus is yes, we'll go into it though, with that story. But Jairus, I love how he said, he might be he's like, no, actually, no, I'd rather be unborn than to return to ignorance. And so I loved when he said that, and he's like, so he's just basically saying he is. I'm not even gonna say like would, could,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe, like he is. And so it's pretty cool. I like that a lot. But yeah, I don't even know where we kind of land with that. He's just like, I think we've kind of said everything, but yeah, this is the way I feel, and all everything we're talking about, like you can't unsee it. It
Yeah.
won't change the way I believe. Like, sorry, bro. Like, sorry, Yusuf. But
Yeah.
Yusuf he's the same way, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we've clearly saw that if he was the one that told the disciples to get out, right? Like he was the one that snuck up,
Yep.
and yeah, and so like he just, yeah, something's working in him, which is, I love that they're doing this, because you can't tell me that 100% of the Pharisees like were not receptive of this. Like
Right.
the law of probability, like come on, like that's just not, so I love that they're developing this way, like that they're developing one of the Pharisees to be,
Mhm.
not our boy Shmuel, that's often
Ugh.
often you know
Yeah.
I
Don't worry. We definitely have a
let's just
oh.
do it, get it over with, man. I can't even just do it.
Actually,
Shmuel.
it's very short.
It is very short.
Shmuel is in
Later
the
on,
the
yeah.
court of Pharisee judges or
The court
Sadducees
of
or
Pharisee judge.
whatever.
Yeah.
Um, they're having a big Pharisee convention, and basically, they get like an edict. Is that what they called it? Passed, pretty much, uh, saying what Jesus is doing is illegal, and
Yeah,
if he
and it's
doesn't,
the dude. It's
yeah,
the Yeah, I can't remember his name. Do you remember his name?
one of the Shammai or
Yeah, one of the 2 that they
whatever
were pinning
the other
up
one.
against each other. They went to the one dude first, he's like, "I don't know," and
Mhm.
then they went to him, and he's like, "You mean the other dude said, like, let's get him." Like, because he hated
Yeah,
the other dude, and I can't remember his name, but yeah, no, they're making a case against Jesus,
I
and
love how political it is too, because like Shmuel's like jumping out of his pants, and the dude next to him's like, "All right, cool, that was great,"
yeah,
and she's like, "Er, great work, Shmuel," and he's like, "Work? We haven't even done any work. Like now, let's go get Jesus." And he's
let's
like,
burn him.
"He's like, hey, let's
Like
let's let's calm the horses there, buddy. This speech was the victory. You know, if this Jesus guy is as bad as he says, I mean, we'll hear about it
yeah, he'll
eventually."
he'll he'll make himself known.
Shmuel is just like, "Oh, you just totally peed in my Cheerios, bro."
That's that's one way to look at it, yeah,
Yeah, and that
but
concludes
Shmuel.
the Pharisee Victims Unit. I'm sure we'll be returning there at some point.
Hopefully not. But yeah, go. So Shmuel drives me nuts. I don't know why. And it has nothing to do with what you would think it does, like because he's against Jesus. It really has nothing to do with it. It's literally the but I want to take him down. Like, why
Right,
isn't
right,
anyone
right.
listening to me? Like, that kind of like
He's my
whiny.
false prophet, and I
Yeah,
want him now.
exactly. That's what he reminds me of. That's why he drives me nuts. I don't think I ever completely stated why
Yeah.
he
By the
does,
way,
but
greatest commercial ever.
yeah.
It's my money, and I want it now.
No,
You ever seen that commercial?
no, I have no idea what you're talking
Uh,
about. I was thinking of Charlie in the Chocolate Factory.
also applies. Yes.
Yeah.
Veruga, right? Is that the blueberry girl?
Yeah. Is that her?
Is it
No,
Veronica? Veruga? I don't know. I
I
don't know.
can't
I'm gonna look
remember.
it up
I
real
don't know.
quick. Good. What happens next with our good friend Simon Peter?
Oh, is that who's next? Um, well, we get a glimpse of the well next, actually. And as
It's
we
Veruca salt,
learn,
by the way. Sorry to
Veruca
interrupt. Veruca salt. Yes.
salt.
Yes.
All right. Now that we've accomplished that, so because it is a Roman city, aqueduct. Water's flowing in. There's sewage, and so it kind of draws the whole like they're drawing water into the city, right? Into wells that are made, man-made wells,
Mhm.
right? Well, most wells are man-made, but you get what I'm saying. The water being located there is man-made. This is, again, it's late, so just chill out. But so there's poop water.
Yes.
That's where
Good
we've
old
landed,
doo-doo
right?
water.
And so the E. coli has entered the water, and so they are all going outside of town now, for the well, right? And so that's where we get a glimpse of a long line sitting at the well waiting for their turn to draw water. And so now we jump to the scene of what you kind of brought up was Simon. And well, no, let's call him Peter at this point. Is he
Yeah,
Peter?
we always
Simon
forget.
Peter.
We always
Yeah, I don't
forget.
know. Simon P.
Good old
he
Pete.
good old Pete. He's made it back, and so he is just, I don't know. My wife enjoyed this scene just because she's like, oh, they they're like normal, like
Just completely oblivious.
the oblivious, the fighting, the not
Eden is
arguing, but
just
like,
so passive aggressive.
uh,
It's great. It's
so
perfect.
but yeah, he's coming in. He's like, all right, yeah, I got this. I'm gonna go take a nap. You're gonna go draw some water, right? And make some bread. This is bread. Is there enough bread? Is there good bread? And so it's
Yeah.
like kind of going
No, I've
like,
been gone for like ever, but
yeah,
all my buds, the boys, they're
the
coming over
bros.
tonight. So yeah, if you could take care of that, I'm gonna go hit the sack.
Uh-huh. And she's like, oh, like, are you really? And you didn't notice all these
Yeah.
things. You didn't know, in
It,
which
it,
this
I
is
moved the table from there to here so it could make some more room, and then Ema gave us these cloths I hung on the wall. It's
mhm.
just
Which is
so
funny
great.
too,
I
because
love it.
this is like in my position, it's like the opposite. I like clean the house, organize things, and I'm like, you didn't notice the picture on the wall? Like, you didn't notice that thing over there? Like,
Yeah.
hey, man, can you go turn that door and make sure it works? I fixed that. Like I so it's like the exact opposite. I'm usually an Eden spot here.
Oh, that's so
But
funny.
so yeah, no, so he's clearly not observant here. And so she is passive aggressive to some extent, but also just kind of silent, and she's
Yeah.
just like, fine, I'll go do this thing, and he's just oblivious. So,
Mhm.
and just normalcy kind of going on here between a married couple, the only married couple that we know of, I believe, that's in the disciples. So yeah, so she goes to the well, and I'm just trying to follow the whole arc here. So walking outside, grabbing your water, she runs into a woman, right? And a woman is asking, like, "Hey, dude," or not.
Hey,
She's like, hey.
you know how they did a Romeo and Juliet movie, like, I wanna say early 2000s or late 90s with
uh,
Leonardo DiCaprio, and it was like Romeo and Juliet in the modern times.
oh, I know what you're I haven't seen. I think I actually
Like,
might have seen it.
wouldn't it be so funny if, like, they kept the set pieces and wardrobe and everything the same, but,
And
like,
then, but my
the
yeah.
dialogue was this, they're like, "Yo, bro, I see you got a lot of dirty clothes there. Would you like me?"
Oh man,
That was awful. I can't believe I interrupted you for that.
that's all right.
Shame on
Um,
me.
shame. So here she is. She's this lady, and I know we don't know her name. She's like, "Hey, can I, wash your clothes? I'll, for pay." And she's like, "Well, no, not really. Like I'm actually going to get water to do it myself." And so, she's like, "Why don't you come with me?" And she's like, "Well, no, there's a long line there waiting for hours. I actually know of a spring outside of here. Would you like to come with me?" And she's like, "Yeah, sure." So they go, and and so we'll go into that later. But yeah, so they're there, and so she kind of takes notice that there is blood on all the clothes, like it's just blood everywhere. And so, um, yeah, so she kind of, they're kind of small talking. I don't think they don't say anything at that first point. It's later on we see to kind of just continue with this arc here.
Mhm.
Later on, the woman, I don't know if she said her name, I can't remember. I'm just terrible with names, so that's my
I
fault.
honestly, I wanna Veronica,
Yes, yes. Um, so
not
Veronica's
to be confused with Veruca Salt. This is
yes,
Veronica.
yes, yes, exactly. Um, no schnozberries here, but Veronica is here. So Veronica's cleaning her clothes, and so Eden walks up, and they're talking, and she's like, "Oh, it looks like your husband's home because you got a bunch of tunics." And so here she is doing the laundry of
Thanks
um,
for bringing that up,
right.
Veronica. I
And
almost called
again,
her
I still
Veruca.
feel like I'm in Eden's shoes here. No, I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm just joking. But so not really, but Eden is Eden is cleaning the clothes here, and so um and then now she actually brings it up, and so they're talking about these bloodied clothes, and she brings up, and she's like, "Oh, I've been like this for like 12 years," and she's like, "12 minutes? No, 12 years."
Yeah.
Or was it
How are
15?
you alive?
How are
Can we
you
just
alive? Yeah.
first off, let's just get this out of the way. This is the woman, the issue of blood,
Mhm.
obviously. This is one of my wife's favorite stories from the Bible, so she was, like, elated about this,
Mhm.
and because the entire series, she's like, "I wonder if they'll do that and, like, how that will be."
Uh-huh.
So here it is, we're gonna find out, it's gonna be really cool. Um, Secondly, I never knew what they were talking about, the issue of blood. I was like, "What the heck is that? I don't even understand." Like, what's the big deal? First off, like, and secondly, like, what is it? I don't even know. And so she explained to me, it's just a never-ending period. Not to be
That's
like frank, but I
oh,
mean
but yeah, I mean, it's
that's what it
why
is. Also, if you notice in this episode, a lot of period jokes.
are they? Yeah, they did kind of allude to that a lot.
A
I mean,
lot.
even
Even Jarvis.
did he?
Yeah.
Peter was like,
Peter.
"I know it's not that time of,"
Yeah.
but and she's like, don't."
Don't even.
Like,
I mean, the whole ritual cleansing alludes to, like being unclean, blah blah blah. Anyways, yeah,
mhm.
I was
Yeah,
kind of happy that I finally learned what the heck they were talking about, and also a little grossed out.
and this story is the same. It's told together in Mark, at least. It's told together with the Jairus, the story of Jairus,
Yes,
and
because don't they like
and
intertwine?
yeah, they're told at the same. point of scripture. So Mark 5:21 through 43 is this kind of this whole story that we see here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't want to go into the whole story of Jairus because it's like very early on with that. But she's bleeding. It's a rare disorder, and so she's losing blood. She's losing, which is energy. We know now that blood, if you're losing blood, that blood has hemoglobin in it, the little iron that carries oxygen. So if you have an oxygen, you're not producing energy. Therefore, she says you're tired. She's like, I'm just tired all the time. And so that's kind of alludes to that. So yeah, I don't know. It's like she's losing a lot of blood. She's just kind of existing, right? She's just surviving at this point. She could tell she's just lugging around big old bags of clothes as she cleans them for people. She's sitting by it, just constantly cleaning. Like, I don't know. So,
and we should say this disorder basically has resulted in her being disowned by everyone. Knowing, like,
yeah, because
she's considered unclean, and then of course referencing the earlier scene in the synagogue of like cleanliness and all of that, like it's a big deal to be considered clean.
Yeah, and I'm just speculating. Yeah, there it is. Unclean as long as So what we get this from is what they're alluding to is I couldn't remember what it was. Leviticus 15:25, and it says, I'll just let you. So it says, I mean, I'm not going to actually read this whole thing. It's actually longer, but I was about to read it. But basically saying that when a woman has a discharge of blood for many days, for her monthly period continues on, and basically she's unclean at that time, and anyone who touches them will be unclean, and that type of thing. So it's that little period of time that I'm not even trying to do that. The little section of time that she's unclean. So her never stopping, she's just continuously being unclean, and everyone is going to distance themselves from her. And so that's so she's alone. She hasn't married. She has no family it is with her because of this disorder. And so like, it's a lonely place. And so, yeah, so that's where we're at with Veronica. And so she's kind of, getting a little cozy with Eden and talking and getting to know her. And so, yeah. Let's see here.
This isn't the final scene between them. There's another one.
Is there?
Yeah, where they kind of go on to talk about. Oh no,
we jumped to that second scene.
Yeah. So one important thing to note here is she's talking about her disorder, and she says there's no cure, no ailment. She spent all of her money on doctors. They've only made it worse. And so Eden's like, like there's no hope there. That's awful. And she's like, I love this. Veronica's like, what do you mean there's no hope? Yeah, maybe with them, but like, I heard the Sermon on the Mount. Like she's alluding to, I've heard of this Jesus guy. Like, like there's hope for me still. And it's just really cool. I love that.
No, it is like, it's I loved that, because she's like, no, like there is hope, and I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna, she's kind of alluding to, and I don't know, it's hard to like take the bias of the story that I know outside of this, but like, yeah. So I think that's what? Go on.
I was just gonna say, do you want to go to the meeting, the reuniting of the disciples, or do you want to follow Jairus's story? Those are kind of the two big.
Let's end with Jairus. Let's end with Jairus.
Okay.
Which is fitting to the episode. So, yeah, we're actually cruising along here. So, I guess there's a small tidbit of.
We could Mary and Tamar.
Yeah, let's just bring it up real quick. It'll take like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, 45 minutes for us, our time. But so they're in Matthew's house.
Big rant incoming about olive oil, guys. Fasten your seatbelts.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Got a big rant for pertaining to
Oh,
that.
yeah. Oh no, well, because olives just are disgusting. First off, I always kind of joke and say that I go into stores, I buy cans of it and just throw it out so other people don't
Like Ron Swanson and
experience.
turkey bacon.
Correct.
Yes.
It's kind of like that, except it's a little bit more intense, a little more
one
meaningful.
of my favorite scenes ever, Parks and Rec. I love that so much. Like, hey, sir, would you like to try a piece of turkey bacon?
Yes.
Like, yes, please. Grabs it, immediately throws it in the trash can. He's like, what can I have another?
Oh man. Yes. Just picture me with olives and
Yeah,
no. All right. So that's our rant. But no, so they're at Matthew's house, Mary, Magdalene, and Tamar. And so they're kind of arguing, going back and forth. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what I've been through. I heard things about you. And they're just going on and back and forth. And so they're interrupted
Mary coming out, though, by the way, like pretty savage clap back to Tamar, which I thought was pretty almost kind of ruthless, where she's talking about Tamar's talking about like auctioning off Matthew's belongings inside of his house, and like, because he has no taste, blah 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 blah. Mary's like, well, maybe we shouldn't do that. I mean, it's like his stuff, and like we've asked you to maybe sell some of your jewelry. Maybe you got a lot on, and Tamar goes into like what you said. You don't know what I've been through, blah blah blah. All these pieces mean something. Remind me of lost family members, blah blah blah. I wear them to remind me of them, carry them with me or whatever. And Mary's just like, I mean, I don't want to like be off base or anything here, Tamar, but isn't that kind of paganistic? I mean, that was just, I was just like, oh, dang, she's not messing around here.
Well, what she's alluding to is idols.
Yeah.
Right. And that you're taking these things. Yeah. Okay. So you did picking up on that. It's just that these things are representing something.
Yeah. It just
and
caught me off guard that she just like straight up was just like, filthy pagan.
Yeah. Well, because she, I mean, she kind of did do that to some extent.
Oh, and then she said she's like paganism or animism. What is animism?
I don't know.
But then they get into their little, you don't know what I've been through argument.
And the attribute, so it's like idolatry, right? And so it's the attribution of a soul to plants, inanimate objects, and natural phenomena.
They
so it's the belief in a supernatural power that organizes and animates the material universe.
Oh, okay.
So idolatry, like this, but go on.
Old Zebedee comes and he's like, guys, taste my olive oil. Which one? This is the second time we've seen somebody just take a swig of olive oil. Who does that?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we're not culturally understanding it, but I don't know. I can't imagine, I can't even fathom the idea of taking that extra virgin olive oil and just kicking it back. Yeah. I couldn't, I don't know.
But he's coming in, he's all proud. He's like, hey, check out this new olive oil. Thomas loved it, right? What do you guys think? I mean, he didn't say that, but that's what I'm assuming is going on in his head. He's very proud of his olive oil. And he's
trying to do, he gave up, he was a fisherman.
His new venture.
He gave up this for something beyond what he knows or what
he wants to use it as anointing oil. He talked about. They rip it to shreds, man. Apparently it's not good.
Well, Mary didn't want to, and then Tamar's like, this is rancid, I think is the word she used. And so so that basically we could turn this into a 45-minute segment here, and
we're getting close to it.
Yeah. So basically they are honest with him. They're like, it's bad, dude. You need to let's figure this out. And they kind of go into that. And so
Tamar
but
does get the idea to try to basically reach out to the olive producer, farmer, whatever, and maybe like acquire the farm is kind of what I'm thinking. Because
yeah,
they
they
got
got
this.
that donation from
Mhm.
I can't think of her name. I'm so bad with names.
Yes, the lady from Herod's Court
Mm-hmm.
donated the crazy scarf fabric thing. I think it
I don't
started
know.
with a J, but anyways,
Yeah.
it'll come to us after we stop recording.
So basically they're like, all right, she said to turn this and multiply this for the cause, right? And so yeah, so got the idea of that. And so moving on, we had, we'll just end it there. We do see later that Zebedee, is that is that his
That's
first name?
yeah, that's
Well, I know
big.
it's Big James
Yeah,
and
Zebedee.
John's. Okay. So Zebedee, you do see him kind of later on. He is selling his boat.
Big
And
deal.
so, yeah, big deal. So he's trying to make some money to really go on this venture. And it, they allude to him. They're like, dude, you're like the best fisher around.
Right.
Like, what are you doing? And he's like, I don't want to live like this anymore. I want to live above this. And that's not above this like fiscally or anything, just like for something greater than
Right.
than the now, right? And so yeah, all right, now we took a little sidebar, but I'm glad we discussed that real quick. All right, so now we are at the uncomfortable scene with the luncheon at Simon P's house, and Eden is just frustrated, but was just Simon Peter. So but yeah, so they're all back, they're telling stories of their journeys, because they remember they all just are just out getting back into town from going out 2 by 2, and so here they are, and they're just doing their thing and living life and discussing what it was like to heal people and preach. They're like, Andrew preached. He
Yeah.
was up there. Like doing his thing.
Yeah.
And so, but this is where a big James. But there's a conflict building, right? And so they have what was the one? What were they actually struggling? Oh, yeah, that's what it is. Okay, so John was arguing like, don't you feel like powerful? Right? Didn't you feel that like this power to this? And so I'll just be very honest with you. My child was screaming and not screaming, crying a few minutes. So like, I think this was the scene where I was kind of like trying to focus. But I'm pretty sure who was arguing against it and saying, I think it was big. Oh, that's what it is. It's like brotherly argument here. You had John that's saying, like, didn't you feel power? Like, why would it be wrong to feel this if like this is what he's given us? And Big James is arguing that. What are your thoughts?
Philip comes back and he's like, yeah, but is that kind of dangerous to hold on to that of all things?
Yeah.
Which brings up like an interesting talking point. Because there is like a line between walking and serving in confidence, and then of course like being power hungry, or like what you know what I'm talking about. And I think that's kind of what at least maybe Philip's talking about here, because then they kind of talk about how like John's like, well, why? Like, he gave it to us, and they're like, because he's the Messiah, not us, right? And then we talked about Judas. He comes up and he's like, yeah, because he's working through us, which I think is something to like keep in mind, like having that confidence of walking in what he's called us to do and the authority and the power that he's given us through the Holy Spirit. Like, as long as you are walking in that confidence with the full realization of like, none of this is me. Like, I am just a vessel that the Holy Spirit is using, and like all glory goes to Jesus. Like, none of this is me. This is all Jesus, right? Like, that's okay. That's good. Like, you should do that. You should be confident in what Jesus has instilled in you and is doing through you. But when you start to turn that corner of like, man, like, I'm healing people, or I'm up here preaching and leading thousands to Jesus, or like I'm up here leading worship and there's like a stadium full of people like singing with me while I'm leading, where you turn it inwards about what you're doing and like what you're able to accomplish. That I think, at least in my mind, that's like this conversation that they're having there, or at least how I interpreted it.
No, it is. That's exactly what I would say they're conversating about. And even with what you're saying, I think about that and I'm like, I feel like as human beings, we can't deal with power. We can't, or
Notoriety.
My goodness, I couldn't say the word. You can't, like, it's just like there's something, and it was Plato that said, that's where the ring of I'm pretty sure, I don't know if this is like a tale, but the Lord of the Rings kind of stems from, in the Republic, by Plato. He talks about, like, it's called the Ring of Gaia, and he's like, all right, so if you gave this magical ring that made you invisible, would you use it for good and bad, get good or bad, and so, like, I think that's just the basic moralization of like, what do you do with power? Do you use it for good or bad? And really the major aspect here is like, you don't know, like, you're unseen, right? No one can see you. So like, there's no consequences there. So which way do you drive? Are you good or are you bad? And so power, I mean, we see that. I mean, I don't care what era you're in, like, power, power, what is the phrase? I know my friend Dan is listening right now and he's like saying it out loud. Power corrupt. What is the saying? It's like power.
I mean, just say confidently, I'll believe you.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so
Yeah.
that's what it is. It took me a moment to get there, but I actually don't remember who said that. I always know my friend Dan talks about that. But so it's like they're struggling with something real that's almost like ingrained into humanity. Like, we can't, and we see it all the time. Like, you see people that, like, they're starting out. We'll just use the example that you had. Like, these people are like preaching, and like there's a lot of like, leadership within in churches and just the whole faith of Christianity, right? There's this leaders, and you say like, okay, like, God's working through me, and it's like, I feel like that's just like this rationalization. Like, of course that's what's happening in this regard, but like, it's this rationalization, like, I'm not doing it for me because God's working through me. But then it's like, okay, so then you almost like think about yourself as being this like necessary, I don't know, vessel, to be lack of better words, almost as if like the people out here like don't have a means of being saved or understood anything if you're not the vessel that's God's working through. And like, and I think that's what you were kind of alluding to when you were talking about, like, I'm the one they're working
Right.
through
Yeah.
me.
Exactly.
And so it's like, I just humans don't do well with it. And so like, I love that they're wrestling with this, because that's a real thing to wrestle with. I mean, dude, like, I mean, just think about it. These are disciples that are going out and doing the same things that like you had mentioned. In this terms here, he's God, right? He is a manifestation of that, right? He is that. And so like, now you have these disciples doing the same thing that he's doing. He's working through them. And it's like, how do you not feel that? How do you not like have to wrestle with that, like with that power struggle, right? I
Mhm.
mean, I don't know. I loved this whole thing, what I was able to get from it. I'm it's one of the ones you have to rewatch, but
Yeah, yeah.
um
And then, like, it gets to Big James, and he's like, "Yeah," they're like, "What'd you guys do out in the wherever you were?" And he's like, we just, like, preached and did the things that Jesus said we were gonna do." And Nathaniel's like, I love this little line, it made me laugh. He's like, "You sound as enthusiastic as a Sadducee with a toothache."
I don't even know what that means.
Me either, but I love it. I love it.
Oh,
Um,
man.
but yeah, like, then they come up and he said that he didn't give us power though, right? He worked through us, which is
Mhm.
what Judas says, and they all just kinda, like, agree, but Big James is kinda, like, being a party pooper here, and he's like, "Yeah, I didn't think it was a good idea, like, just it's gonna be a headache, more crowds, more scrutiny, like, more eyes on us, like." uh, and then he goes into another funny line, by the way. John's like, he's like, he's just mad at me, talking about Big James. He's annoyed that I've gotten close to Thomas, and because Jesus once called me beloved.
Uh, John said that?
Yeah, which of
Oh,
course,
yeah. Uh-huh. The
made me laugh
beloved.
because John always refers to himself as the one who
The
Jesus loved.
beloved disciple, yeah.
Um, but yeah, Big James, he says something that I think hits home with anyone who's been a follower of Jesus at any point in their walk. Um, Jesus, using us as vessels, Jesus gave us power, but no understanding.
Mhm.
And then he continues to go on and say, um, sorry, he said, oh my gosh, I skipped over it and then I went back. I want to get exactly what he says because he said, "I said things that I don't comprehend or live by. I felt like a fraud,"
Mm.
which is tough.
That is tough. I mean, that it makes sense. I think sometimes when I start speaking about these types of things, I feel like hesitant and I feel like a fraud. And like almost like I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm probably the least qualified person to have a podcast about Jesus. So in one sense, I feel like Big James sometimes doing this show. Um, but yeah, it's just like, of course, them being so early on in their walk with Jesus and just learning all these things, but like they don't know everything. We even now, 2000 some years later, like we don't fully understand. We're not even going to fully understand everything about our faith until the day we're like face to face with God and we can like ask questions. Um and all can be revealed, right? Um and like none of us are perfect. So of course, like there's areas that we aren't, living by what we believe, right? Or what we're necessarily like trying to convey to people, right? And yeah, sometimes, man, it does feel fraudulent
well,
and
we
it's tough.
probably don't even, to some extent, don't even know what we believe. It's very easy to be like, I'm Christian or I believe this or I believe that, but like there's certain aspects of it, that you don't. no, because you haven't wrestled with it. Not you, just
Yeah.
and I
Or
struggle with.
like even before you get to wrestling, like like dug in,
Mhm,
read the Bible, right? You get saved off of pastor's sermons, right? But like maybe that's as far as you go and you don't go any further. Uh and here you are. This was a way that I lived for a long time early on, is like just off the back of pastors or people around me, where I didn't actually like dig in
mhm.
and try to learn and get close to God and like grow in my relationship, right? Um but yeah, even then, like you said, you get to that next stage where you're like you got to wrestle with some things and like really try to, I don't know, learn, discover.
Well, yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of things that conflict and just don't make sense. There's no understanding to it, and I've had these conversations with people, and you just say like, well, why do you feel so strongly about X, Y, or Z, right? Like, why do you feel so strong about this? And they're like, well, I don't know, like it's because it says it here. It says something about like here, and you're just like it, and it's. And I mean, me saying this isn't saying that they're wrong, even though, and to some extent, they are wrong for not wrestling further and coming to, But like, I think that there are levels of like there. There's a lot of aspects that like you don't need to get to a deeper understanding to like if you got to the deeper understanding, it doesn't change the major aspect of it, right? And so like I don't know. Um, but yeah, there's just so much misunderstanding in it all. And even here, like with Jesus, you see Big James is like, I don't understand it. And which I thought was hilarious. Eden just pops out and
Yeah.
she's
Why don't you
hey,
guys just wait
hey
until Jesus
doofuses,
gets here?
hey, why don't you ask him? How about that? Brilliant. I don't know.
Yes.
How about, eat some bread and ask him what he like just ask him, dude. And so I liked that. But no, I don't know. It is good. You did bring out that like it's something we struggle with now, and there isn't a lot of understanding in. And actually, I would say in the modern world, um, it actually is more difficult to understand, more difficult to reconcile things, difficult to just even gain a firm understanding of what it is, which is why I feel like ideas like this or that it's diminishing with the world. I don't know if Christianity is growing or diminishing. I don't actually know that statistic, but I imagine over the past like 200 years, I don't imagine it might have fluctuated going up and down here.
Mhm.
But I think if you look at a nice long enough window, like I imagine it's the I would say if you look at the percentage of population, because obviously people, I mean, in the past like 30 years have gone up to, we're up to what, 7 billion, 8 billion? What is it? So I don't know, some ridiculous number.
A lot of billions.
Yeah. Um, so I guess what I'm saying is like, it's harder even now being in a modern age.
Mhm.
And so, um, this was like their life, their laws, their everything. Like this was what made them. It wasn't just a religion to them. It was everything, right? It
Yeah,
was every
it's
that
their
they
life.
based every moment of their life around.
Mhm.
Which is in theory, if you should be basing most of your life around that now. I mean, if you're following something, right? If you follow something and have such a faith in it, it should rule your life to some extent, right? Or are
Mhm.
you really believing in what you say you believe in?
Right?
I don't know. Not to be like legalistic there, and that's not what my goal here is. Just like we're all striving for something, and that striving is to act um in our faith. I don't know. So, but you get what I'm saying there, right? Okay,
Mhm.
good.
Yeah.
But yeah, Big James is unhappy because he doesn't understand.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
Eden's like, you
conflicted,
guys
I
are
would say.
doofuses. Yeah, he's conflicted, and it's probably hear the brotherly John and him are disputing,
Yeah.
you know,
I think it's great that those two are on like the extreme opposite ends of the spectrum in
and
this
table.
meeting, though. Too, like
Yep.
John's elated, he's on top of the world, like man, this was amazing. Like I had all this power that I could heal people and do all this stuff. It was crazy. It was awesome. And then his brother's like, I don't know, man. I kind of felt like a big fraud. Um, I thought that was interesting having brothers be on the opposite ends there. But yeah, that's the meeting there. So I'm anxious to hear listeners like drop a comment. You know, if you're watching on YouTube, on
Mhm.
over on Showboys, or uh, wherever you're listening on James's platforms, like leave a comment, join one of our discords. Let us know what you thought about. I mean, this episode is full of thinker moments. So like,
Mhm.
I would love to hear from anyone on any of these like big thinking moments, what you guys thought. So don't be afraid to comment. We would love to hear that.
Yep. Completely agree. What he said. Um, so yeah, I think now. All right,
Oh,
hold
we
on.
got
No, we got
Jairus,
Jared,
Jairus,
but
Jairus.
this, well, no, we got one more little thing to talk about real quick. This was like this scene to me, like was like it was like a college party that like went wrong almost you invited a couple people over for a party and then like everyone's just piling in your house, and this is exactly that moment. It's like Peter and Eden are arguing, and then here comes knocking on the door, and then you have it's Jesus there, and he's like, "Awesome, cool, I'm coming in," and like they're just bringing all these people in, and like it was just like you
Yeah,
know, like I don't know. You get what I'm saying? Like it was just like this
yeah.
awkward.
Well,
Reminded
because
me of the
it's Jesus, it's
party.
all the disciples, and on top of that, a massive mob of people realizing that Jesus is there and trying to like follow and like
Mhm.
talk, learn, be healed, etc.
And
And of course, Simon and Eden, not in the the most perfect of places in their relationship at the moment. And Simon's like, "Dude, really?"
he's like, I came home from this, and I will say, my wife looked at me not once, not twice, maybe three times, multiple times throughout this episode, and was like, she looked at me and she's like, "You're exactly like Peter." I'm like, so that's funny, but
Nice.
yeah, I don't know if
He's
it's that.
like, after a long journey, like I just want to come home, like, but no, my home's being used as a meeting place, a forum, a town hall. Like, come on, man, just give me a break. And he just kind of he needs to go for a walk. So he goes for a walk. Do you want to talk about Peter and Gaius's
Yeah,
conversation?
yeah. Let's just glance at that because I'm wondering where that's going. So basically, Gaius walks up and he's got a slippy slips
Civilian
on, and so
civilian toga.
his his jammies. He's
Yeah.
just no,
He's
he's
still packing though. He's still
still
got his
fat.
sword.
Yep. And so Peter's sitting by the well or latrine. Is that what they would call it? No, not
No, that would be a
latrine.
bathroom.
That's definitely
Cistern.
Sistine.
That'd be
Uh,
awkward if Gaius and
oh my
and Peter
goodness.
just sitting on the latrine.
That is totally what that is. All right. So he's what is it called? Is it
Cistern?
cistern?
The broken cistern.
Is it cistern? I don't.
By the
All right.
way, while we're looking up what it's called, a little update on the 45-minute ago reference to the Leonardo DiCaprio Romeo and Juliet
Oh
movie.
my goodness.
I had pulled this up, but I didn't want to interrupt the flow. But we've interrupted it now, so I'm just gonna throw this out there. 1996, and it is the opposite of what we pitched, where the set pieces, setting, wardrobe stays the same, but the
Um,
language changes. This Romeo and Juliet. Shakespeare's famous play is updated to the hip, modern suburb of Verona, still retaining its original Shakespearean dialogue. Anyways, the more you
Well,
know.
I did not get an answer for this. It's a cistern. Cistern. All right. So cistern. That's what it is. Cool. Not a latrine. But which also reminds me, I think they were they you know they have those ads for the shows. They had the cartoonish David and the other whatever show for VidAngel or whatever.
Oh, the Wing Feather
Yeah,
Saga
yeah.
or whatever.
Well, there's that one that they keep promoting is the modern it's
Testament.
Axe. Yeah, it's Axe, but in a modern. And I don't know how I feel about it, but I don't know. But I won't judge a book by its cover, so I'll.
Well,
But
to derail
yeah,
this
right
even
there with.
further, Jonathan Romy, Jesus, is in an
Yeah, I don't
upcoming.
understand that. He's like a hippie. Is that
Yeah,
what it is? He's literally like
yeah.
he just got done following the dead around or what? Like
He is upcoming. Jesus Revolution is what it's
yeah,
called.
yeah. I don't know.
And the true story of a national spiritual awakening in the early 1970s, its origin within a community of teenage hippies in Southern California. He's still got the classic chosen Jesus hair. He
Oh, he
just
has
looks like a
to
hippie now.
cut it off.
Yeah, I mean, he can't. Yeah, what is he gonna do? We're gonna do a Henry Cavill CGI haircut.
My
If you know, you
goodness.
know. Anyways,
Yeah.
we've totally derailed. Let's get back on track at the latrine here.
Yeah, oh my goodness. Well, basically, they're it's just kind of small talk. The whole time. Gaius is just hanging out. They're both sitting there. They're just talking. They talk about Matthew. Why does everyone don't like Matthew? Besides the fact that he was a tax collector, like what's wrong with him? Here's they didn't really answer. Kind of glossed over that, but and they're just getting to know each other, talking about the fact that the synagogue is bringing in the materials because the supply chain issue with Rome, whatever. They're like, you need to be doing something with your hands. Why don't you help out next day? So,
yeah, meet
but
me
he's
here tomorrow morning.
yep. And the whole time he's sitting there tying knots, Peter's tying different knots, and so. Gaius is like, I can do every single one of those. And he grabs the rope and he ties one that actually Peter didn't know. And so then he's like, prove that you could do these, and ties all the knots. And so it's just literally small talk, and they're kind of getting it. And unless I'm missing something here.
Little desensitization of the audience's view on Gaius, even though it probably was not
Yeah,
a
I'd
hardened
say,
view anyways.
yeah.
But making him less Roman jerk soldier and more like relatable,
I keep
sympathetic character.
thinking, like, am I missing something? Is it Acts that they have the Centurion? I think in Acts, there is a Centurion that is converted. I don't know, which doesn't make. I don't know. That doesn't make sense of that he be that because he's privy.
Right. Not officer.
But then again, I don't know when. I think he was a centurion before. I don't know the ranks of.
One
important,
last
but
scene
I wanna
also
do it all.
with Veronica that we didn't really talk about. After her and Eden wash the clothes later that night, she goes to deliver clothes back to a gentleman who sees blood running down her leg onto her foot, and then of course calls her unclean, throws
What?
his clothes back at her, and yeah, that's how we know. If you didn't know already, the lady with the issue of blood. Did you miss that scene? It's very short.
No. Yeah, no. I did not miss it. I was reminded of it by flipping through that. But yeah, so thank you for bringing that up because we almost missed that.
Yeah. That leaves just Jarvis, right?
Yeah.
All right, you want to dig into this?
Yeah, so Jarvis here,
We get to meet his family finally.
Yeah, we meet his family. I'm trying to find the part here. And so yeah, so he kind of after where he was talking to Yusuf, he gets home, he's got his wife that's pregnant and his daughter, and so he's kind of going, he's got his home scry, or his home
Little,
library of
yeah,
things,
exactly.
and so and it's there, she's the daughter's cooking with her mother, and I can't remember what happens here.
Her tummy hurts and she collapses.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yes. All right. And so something's wrong with her, and she's sick in some capacity. And so mom yells, for Jairus, and so he runs in there, and they set her down, and he's like, "I'll get a doctor." So that's the first scene. Boom, done. And so later on, you see, where is it? Dude. I love how both of it were just like click, 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 click,
Yeah.
click, 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 click.
There's another scene between Yusuf and Jairus about, Jairus is like, hey, there's a situation at home. I got to go. My daughter's not feeling well. They
I think
say
it's
that
because of the water.
yes,
Which makes sense.
She drank some doo-doo water.
Correct.
She's not feeling great. And Yusuf, being a great guy, he's like, all right, what can I do to help? He's like, novel idea. Let's get some clean water. And he's like, done. What else do you need?
Yeah. It is literally, it is just a done.
Yeah. Got it. But oh man.
Oh yeah, he brings up right here. Yeah, what? Another rant?
Major talking point here.
Yeah, I know. Well, he's like I wonder if I'm being punished for following, for thinking and believing what I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And Yusuf doesn't really argue it, but almost, I mean, you got to understand that they're legalistic. They're very I mean, I'm reading through. It's a very you do this to me, I do the same thing back to you, and so it's very I can't think of the word here, but that word, just fill it in and just say very retribution is the word. Like you're getting retribution for things. Like you do something wrong, you're punished for that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I don't know. We can turn that into like a 40-minute rant.
Well, this is actually the scene where basically exactly what you said. Yusuf's like, basically he's saying like, oh, if you are like, it's my fault. I've done this to you.
I'm
Like
the one that made you
I wrote the
stumble.
thing, you read it,
Yeah.
and then that's why you are in this position. He's like, but it's not too late to stop investigating. Like, just take it all back. And that's where Jairus is like, he says, taking it back would not change what I believe.
Yeah, that is this. Yep.
But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, obviously, now New Testament life, new covenant life, right? We don't think God is like going to punish us in this way, right? You sin and he causes sickness or things of that nature. But I think Old Testament, that was how it worked, right?
I mean,
In
I
some
think
way or fashion.
I think there was like a large cause and effect kind of thing. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And to that, like, I think something that a lot of people gloss over is the fact that like we're joining this story 2,000 years after the fact, right? So like we have the New Testament, we have all these stories, the gospel, everything, like laying it all out. But like you've alluded to and we've talked about in past episodes, like if we were around back then, or if this were to happen today, some dude walking around claiming that he is the son of God, like that would be a big struggle to believe in. And if you did believe in that and like you were wrong about it, like
Mhm.
that would be a very heavy thing to go through, right? So like all these people are trying to come to terms with that realization. And I
Yeah.
think we sit here and we're like, "Oh, if we were alive back then and we saw Jesus walking around and Jesus called us, like, of course, no brainer I would go. Like, of course I would be confident that I could heal people. Jesus told me that he was going to give me his authority and power to do all these miracles. Of course, this is the Messiah. Like, it's Jesus." But like we have the benefit of time and knowledge of the New Testament, right? Of course, they had like the prophecies of the Old Testament, but like
Mhm.
it's all been laid out for us now, right?
Yeah,
It's all happened.
but there's also this like level of like they don't understand, and Jesus has to kind of like put it like his so they were going along in John 9, they saw a blind man from birth, right? And they said, um, his disciple asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? And they said, Jesus' response was, neither this man nor his parents sinned, said Jesus. Um, but this happens so that the work of God might be displayed in his life. As long as day, we must do work him who sent me, right? But the point here is that he's not, it's like it's not the point. It's not that it's not the reason. That's not,
Mhm,
and which like right there, it's a subtle thing, but like that wrecks a lot of Old Testament theology, right?
mhm.
Like this, I mean, even now, the retribution, idea of it is still argued to some extent here, but like even right from the goat's mouth, the greatest of all time. No, no, no. So I don't know, man. I just it's I don't know. I had to write a paper on that this semester.
Oh,
Retribution.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't buy it. I just not. I don't subscribe to it. Um, I just think that there's. I don't know. I don't want. I can turn this into way long. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that to you guys. I'm sorry.
Well, it sounds
Um,
like something you should post on your blog for all to read.
it's actually a theme of Ruth.
Well, there you
Ruth.
go. Hey, look at that
So
little
it'll
plug.
be. I'm going to. I'm basically. If I haven't really told you, I'm doing the themes of Ruth. Um, and so basically, what I've done is I've written a bunch of papers and like snippets and different things throughout the semester on Ruth, these different themes, and I'm
Mhm.
turning them into blog posts. First one's up. Second one is pretty much done. I just got to post it, and um, got a couple more in the works too. So yeah,
Nice. But yeah, it's interesting, and it's I think there's like a small like sect that still kind of like lives in this retribution uh thought process.
yeah, but it's not. It's almost like think about it like this too, though. Like I mean, even now we have this idea of like we sin, right? And it's almost like there has to be some balance. You could say you can go on the theology and say, okay, like I sin, God forgives me, and we're good, and we're like He knows my heart. The heart of David. David didn't.
Mhm.
David killed somebody, and then pretty. I don't know. We won't even go into all that, but like
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
it's like a level of like, okay, so I did this thing, I sinned, and now I'm forgiven, right? But that's not, I don't know if that's fully it, because if you do it and you're like knowingly doing, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like, I don't know. There's a
Well,
lot of,
there's like this is something that
it's not
I've
an
kind of
easy cut and dry thing.
yeah, well like the last week or so, maybe a little longer than a week is something I've kind of wrestled with. It's like obviously like grace is there and available, right? And you know, Jesus has given us salvation. But there's like also the whole underlying thing of like, yeah, you don't want to sin, but if you do, if you mess up, if you sin, like, it's fine. God will forgive you through the blood of Jesus, right? That's what he paid for on the cross for us. But like, there has to be a level of like trying to honor God in your life through the things you do, like through your lifestyle, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes things we do, while maybe not being sinful in nature or anything like that, maybe they're not honoring to God. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I also think there's a direct consequence for sin, right? And I'm trying to give like this general idea of what sin, like, not even like from a biblical standpoint, but like just from the point of what sin is, and it's something wrong, whether it's a secular or religious, like there's certain things that like give it. We'll just talk about like sex before marriage, right?
Mhm.
Something like that. It's considered a sinful thing with biblical, but like I don't think it's that level of like a biblical thing. It's a self death, right? Like you lose this idea of like joining. I don't, does that make sense? Like you almost like die to some extent of, how do I put this? I probably should have thought a little bit more about the word before I brought up such a topic. It's, I don't know. You could call it this like sin, but it's like there's direct cons. Like it's not. I don't see it as being this thing that's like God's like throwing down lightning bolts at you for it. And the reason why is because I feel like the kingdom is like Jesus, when he's here, he's like, the kingdom's here, dude. Like you guys are thinking about this futuristic thing, and even not like, like being saved, right? What does that mean? Like, what does that mean that we're going to heaven one day? Like, and it's like that's not what we see in the Bible. I mean, it is. I'm not arguing against that. What I'm saying is that like what we see in the Bible is like he's saying the kingdom is like what is the prayer? Your kingdom come on earth that is in heaven, right? It's not like this thing that he's like, okay, let's like live to the future. Like he's like, let's live here and now. And when you do these certain things, like you see this little bit of sin, like a little part of you dying to this life, that you're supposed to be living. And it's not this future sense, it's this is present. And so I don't know, like, so I guess maybe there is a level of retribution for it, and it's your own making. It's like you kind of create your own hell in life, and it's a very easy thing to think about. And so like, it's not a matter of you going and burning in hell one day. It's a matter, which I don't know, whatever. I'm not even trying to get in that theology right now. But the point here is like there's this little own hell that everyone can make of themselves in their own life, and that's what I kind of see through sin. And so maybe there is a retribution to it. But I don't know. But then with that theology, I don't see that being a factual. That's not like I'll stand confidently and say that's not what was happening with Jairus, right? When we were talking about that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know, man. Crazy stuff. I feel like this episode was so full. It was like the
It's a
Christmas
bombshell
episode.
episode.
Yeah, it was. I remember the Christmas episode. I was like, man, we really didn't do a lot of like breaking down because it wasn't like,
Yep.
I feel
We
like
saved
this
it all
has
for
been
this episode.
over and over and over. There's something else to
Yeah.
rant about. I mean, it was like what 5 minutes in and we were ranting.
Yeah.
But so to end it here, we have Jairus back to his house, and he is his wife is here, which for in the episode, I don't know what I was doing, but I looked up and I'm like, is that Eden? I'm like, is she pregnant?
Wow,
And I'm
that
like,
happened
that's
fast.
why. Well, no, it's like, that's why she's angry at him. He doesn't notice the walls, but she also didn't know he's pregnant. So I thought that was too far. And then it
Nice.
took me like, that was all in the matter of like 0.3 seconds that
Mhm.
whole thought process occurred. I'm like, oh, that's clearly not Eden.
Nice.
But yeah, no, it's Jairus's wife. Middle of the night, she's drinking water, and she's talking to Jairus, and she's like, "Have you checked on Nilly?" And which is their daughter, and he's like, "No, I haven't done it." And she's like, "All right, I'll do it." And she grabs the candle and walks into the bedroom, and she just yells.
Love the shot, by the way. Camera stays focused on the hallway. She walks past, and then you just hear her scream for Jarvis. Like,
Yep.
really cool. I love how they didn't
Yep.
follow her. We don't see
Correct. Yeah,
the
no, that's
daughter. It's
good.
great.
But yeah, and so that's where you left. You're left at a
Yeah.
cliffhanger, and so
Yeah, very excited for next week because we have this episode was called Clean Part 1. Clean Part 2 is next week.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't want to spoil. Obviously, like if you've read, the Gospels,
mhm.
you know what's happening. But for those of you who maybe have not or haven't in a while, don't want to go too deep past what where this episode ended, but very much looking forward to seeing part 2 and how these stories wrap up here.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's just, man, this season's been
Good.
really stinking good.
Yeah. It has. I'm pretty excited to start getting into like the serious stuff. Like in the last episode we saw Jesus is like, there's no turning back now. And it's like that level of like there's a distinct change in the waves, and
Mhm.
so we're gonna start seeing like depth to it. Like, well, there not that there wasn't depth before, but like there was a playfulness to
Yeah.
the first season or two that you just don't. I
It's
don't
gonna
think we're gonna
start
get that
getting
back, and it's
serious.
gonna get very and so I don't know. I might end up start splitting these podcasts into two if we start ranting anywhere past 2 hours.
Yeah.
No, it's just there's just so much I wanted to talk about with this, and so
Yeah.
much, it's like, so I'm not gonna like shy away from
Lot
it.
to unpack. Interesting note, all Jesus episode 3, barely any Jesus episode 4.
Just the party Jesus coming into bed in Peter's
What?
house.
No good? No good evening? Just
Yeah.
evening? Something going
Yeah,
on?
yeah, yeah, like, oh, man.
But yes, thank you guys so much for sticking around, hanging out with us. Make sure you like, follow, rate, review, subscribe wherever you're listening to this on. Check out thenerdybible.com for everything James is doing over there. He's got his new blog series coming out. Head over to showboysmedia.com if you want to hear us ramble on about other shows and movies and video games and all that crazy stuff. And we'll be back next week. You got anything you want to say before we wrap up here? Or?
Yeah, my friend told me to say that his show that he enjoyed, because you were listening last week on the shows, Dark, if that's a show. He wanted
Yes,
to.
that is
I think it's a
on
little
Netflix.
too late for your episode, but
It is a foreign
yeah,
Netflix
he
show.
said they did do like English dubbing. He said just watch it in German and read the subtitles. But
Nice.
yeah, so
I did give your picks for movie show and game of the year on the show. By the way, if you don't know what we're talking about, last Thursday, the last Thursday of 2022, Showboys, we had our 2022 year in review where everyone involved in Showboys in some capacity either came on live on the podcast or sent in their picks for movie, show, and game of the year. They didn't have to be movies, shows, or games that released in 2022, just that you watched or played them. It was a really fun episode.
yeah, I'm behind. I'm still that's in my docket to listen to.
Well, if you think these episodes are long,
I know
man,
that
you're
sometimes
in for a surprise with Showboys.
uh-huh.
But yeah, thank you for tell your friend thanks. I've heard a lot
Well,
of
you're
good things
telling him
about
right
Dark.
now. He listens every
Well,
week.
hey,
Yeah.
friend of what's his name?
Dan.
Yeah. Thanks, man, for letting me know that Dark was your show of the year for 2022. Yeah. I've heard a lot of good things about it. I've never watched it myself, though.
He said it's kind of dark, but
makes sense. Makes sense. On that note, we're going to get out of here. Make sure you tune in next week. And don't forget to comment wherever you're listening to, or, join our Discords. Links are in the episode description or on our websites. And let us know what you thought. There was a ton of stuff, and I'm very interested to know what was going through your heads as you watched, and then especially when you listened to us ramble on about it. And yeah, just let us know what you're thinking. We'll see you next week. Shalom.
Shalom.